All right, guys. We are going to talk about inequalities. And I just want to say we've been working with equalities, which means that something is equal to something else. Okay? Inequalities means that X is going to have multiple solutions. Okay? But it's not much different. Here's the deal. If we can do equalities, then we can do inequalities. Huh? A little bit, it's a little bit different. So I'm going to start you off, okay? Alejandro, we're going to start off just graphing them so we can get an understanding of what it means. Because normally I would say something like x equals 3. Well, now I'm going to talk about x is less than 3, which means x has multiple solutions. So let's talk about this. First, we're going to talk about how we graph them so we can visually understand what an inequality means. In the blank, it says use a blank blank for blank or blank signs. What you're going to do is write use an open circle. Because we're going to graph these on the number line. And we'll use an open circle for less than and greater than sign. Okay? The next one, it says use a blank blank for blank or blank sign. Well, you're going to use a closed circle we'll have a closed circle for our less than or equal to. That's what that means. Less than or equal or greater than or equal to sign. Okay? So let's practice what this looks like on the number line. I have the first statement, x is less than 3. What that means, this is how it's different from an equality. An equality would say x equals 3. It is 3 and that's it. But this statement, x is less than 3, means that x is every single value that's less than 3. So x could be 2, x could be 1, x could be 0, x could be -1, x could be 0.5. Anything that's less than 3. So x is an infinite number of values that's less than 3. What I'm going to do is I'll go to 3 and then I'll look at the sign. Notice this sign, guys, is a less than sign. So I'm going to use the open circle. I go to 3, which is here. There's 2. 3 is here. I'm going to put an open circle at 3. And then I'm going to shade all of the values to the left. Now, can somebody tell me, you can put it in the chat, why am I shading all the values to the left? So absolutely, we're going to shade to the left because we want to shade the direction of what x is. We want to shade what x is, okay? So x is less than 3. That's all those values less than 3. Now, let's look at this one, guys. X is greater than -1. I'm going to go to the number line. Again, I see the greater than symbol, so I use an open circle at -1. -1 is here between 0 and -2. And am I shading to the left or the right? Well, again, I want to shade what x is. X is greater than, bigger than. So I'm going to be shading to the right. All these values is what x is. The next one, they tell us x is greater than or equal to 7. Now here's the deal, Andrew. I'll do the same steps. I'm going to find 7 on the number line, which is here between 6 and 8. Andrew, this time though, am I going to put an open circle? Why? Right. It's the greater than or equal to sign. Good job, both of you. Absolutely. So this time it's closed circle. And Alejandro, am I shading left or right? I'm shading the right. Yeah, X is greater than 7. Perfect. All right, last one, guys. X is less than or equal to -5. In the chat box, Shelby, I go to -5. Am I going to put an open or closed circle at -5, Shelby? Is it an open or closed circle? Shelby, are you there? Thank you, Tia. Thank you, Shelby. Yeah, open or closed circle, Shelby. Let's look up here. It is a less than or equal to sign. Less than or equal to, what do I use? Yeah, a closed circle. Thank you. Yeah, that's what we're doing. Thank you, Xavier and Tia. Awesome. So this is closed. And Xavier, am I shading to the left or the right? Which side? Left side. Yeah, X is less than. So I want all those values on the left. Awesome, key learners. All right, with that being said, guys, I'm going to move on. Let's move on to the next part. Okay, so now they give us the graph, and we have to write the inequality. Alejandra, let's look at number 5. What is this saying? So we're starting at -2, right? And he knows that the shaded part is all of the X values. My question is, how did you know that it was a greater than sign? Exactly. And how do you know that it's not like greater than or equal to? Exactly. Perfect. Right. So if I read it left to right, I'm just gonna read it left to right. Okay. If I read it left to right, it's X is less than -2. And we know that X is less than -2 because 1 is shading all those values less than for X. And I love what Alejandro said. Hey, it's an open circle here. That's how I know it's not less than or equal to. Okay. So if I look at these and I go backwards, I'm going to look at the point that it starts at. So on this next one, number 6, it starts at 4. Okay, so I got 4 here. And then I know the shaded values are all of X, right? It's X, okay? Yeah, right. And I know 4 is going to be 4, or X is going to be greater than all of those values, right? Okay, X is greater than everything. Okay, it's greater than or equal to. So if I want to write this with X in the front, I'm just going to move my sign, okay? Flip my sign over. So X is going to be greater than or equal to 4. Are we all on the same page? All right, guys, on number 7, again, it starts at 0. Okay, the shaded part is X. Yeah. If I look at this one, I know the shaded values are all my values for X. I know those are the values less than 0. And I know that I'm writing my equal to or equal to because 0 is a closed circle. Okay, so it's X is less than or equal to 0. The next one, I know that I'm using a greater than sign, right? because we're doing all the values greater than 5. What is this? -3, okay? So I got -3. I know this is going to be x is greater than -3. And it's not or equals to. Yeah, good job, Tia. It's not or equals to because it is an open circle. Tia, I see you in the chat. You are on fire. All right, with that being said, guys, face-to-facers, if you don't take anything away from today, please remember this. Are we all on the same page? Please do not forget this. Please do not forget this. You must flip the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay? So you have to flip the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Let me say this again. You have to flip the inequality symbol when you multiply or divide by a negative number. That is important, guys. You have to flip the inequality symbol. You hear Miss Bennett's voice in your brain when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay? Are we all on the same page? If you don't leave with anything today, you remember this. This is so important forever. Every time you see inequalities, you need to remember that. You flip the inequality when you multiply or divide by a negative number. Okay, so here we go. Solve and graph the following inequalities. We're just going to handle this, Xavier, no different than what we would handle our equalities, okay? We're going to use our inverse operation. We're going to isolate the x, get x by itself. Everything's exactly the same, Andrew. It's all the same. Here we go. I see 3x plus 2 is less than -4. Deliani, I'm going to get rid of the addition and subtraction first, like usual. I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides, okay? And then I'm going to carry everything down just like I did when I was working an equation, okay? I had 3x. Now I'm just carrying down my inequality sign is less than -6. So far, so good. Nothing has changed. What is our next step, guys, to solve equations? If I had this and this was an equation, what would you do to get x by itself? Divide. We're dividing by what? Not -6. 3. Yeah, I'm going to divide by 3 on both sides, okay? So the 3's go away, and then I end up with x is less than -6 divided by 3. What is that? -6 divided by 3 is what? Well, that's -2. All right? -2. Now, there's my answer. That's it. I have my inequality statement. X is less than -2. I go on my number line. Let's say 0 is here. -2 is over here, right? That's -1. This is -2. Am I going to do an open circle or a closed circle, guys? Open or closed? You learn open. Open circle at -2. And I'm doing all the values less than, so I'm going to shade to the left. Are we seeing how this is the same? Are we seeing how this is the same? Yes. Next one, number 10. Again, the same deal, okay? Everything we're going to treat exactly the same, except we got an inequality here. So we'll start. We got to get rid of the addition and subtraction. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of this 2 by subtracting 2 from both sides. Okay, so I end up, and that's a subtraction of 2. Sorry, they kind of went together, guys. But I end up with x over 6, because to the left, these 2's go away. And then this is greater than a -1 minus 2 is a -3. Are we all on the same page? Not too much has changed. Now I'm going to multiply by 6 on both sides. Remember, to get rid of division, we have to multiply. So I got to get rid of that 6 to get x by itself. So I'll multiply by 6 on both sides. Guys, when I multiply by 6 on both sides, to the left, the 6's go away. Okay? To the right, I got -3 times 6. Well, that's -18. All right? So I end up with x is greater than -18. All right? On the number line, I'm going to write -18 right here. I'm going to do a open circle on -18, and I'm shading everything to the right because x is greater than. Awesome. Awesome. Tia, I see you in the chat, Tia. Real. Here we go, guys. Let's look at 11. 11, we get -7x plus 8 is less than or equal to 1. Okay? Guys, we need to undo the addition first. Do the same thing, which means I got to subtract 8 on both sides. Okay? So I'm subtracting 8 on both sides. When I subtract 8 on both sides, to the left, the 8's cancel. Okay? So I just have a -7x. And then I'm going to bring down my inequality, okay, which is the less than or equal to. And then I got 1 minus 8. Well, that is -7. Now, here's where I need you guys to pay attention. Everybody pay attention. In order to get x by itself, what do I have to do? What am I doing? Yeah, e-learners has already said it good. Dividing. Thank you, Deliani. Yes, dividing. Thank you, Davina, Tia. Yes, I got to divide by 7. Now, this is where you got to pay attention. I'm dividing by a -7 on both sides. A -7. What did I tell you to do if you multiply or divide by a negative number with inequalities? No. When I divide by a negative number or I multiply by a negative number, what do I do to the inequality?
Flip the inequality symbol.
Flip the inequality. I need you to remember this. When you divide or multiply by a negative number, you flip the inequality. When you divide or multiply by a negative number, you flip the inequality. You flip the inequality, guys, when you divide or multiply by a negative number. So what I'm going to do, the 7's cancel. I have an x, and I'll write it over here. I have an x. I flip the inequality. Now x is greater than or equal to 1. Okay? Flipping the inequality. Are we all on the same page? Every time you do it. Every time you divide or multiply. So, for this question, I go to 1. Okay? Say this is 0. 1 is right here. I go to 1 on the number line. I do a closed circle, and now I'm shading all the values to the right. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, flip the inequality. Uh-oh. Let's look at 12. Let's look at 12. 12. Yes.
Why you change the sign to the right?
Because I divided by a negative number. When you multiply or divide by a negative number, you flip the sign. So if you notice, we multiply by -7, it's negative, so that's why I had to flip the sign. Let's look at the next one. Next one, we're going to be do the same thing, right? We got to get rid of this subtraction, isolate x by itself. So I'm going to start with the subtraction. I'll add 5 to both sides. Okay, so I'm adding 5 to both sides of the equation. The 5s are going to cancel. I end up with a x over or divided by negative 8. Bring down my inequality sign. And then I have a negative 2 plus 5. Well, that's just 3, positive 3. How do I get rid of the negative 8 to get x by itself, guys? Yes. Huh? Times 8. And then I heard you unmute yourself, Yuretsi, I believe. And I see Davina. Awesome, guys. I am going to be multiplying 8 on both sides. And it's a negative 8. A negative 8. And I don't know who asked me the question in the beginning. But do you see what's happening here? What am I going to do? If I'm multiplying by a negative 8, what do I have to do? Flip the inequality sign. All right? So to the left, everything cancels. I have x. I flip my inequality because I multiplied by a negative number. So now this is greater than. And then 3 times negative 8, that's negative 24. And so I'm going to go on my number line. I'm just going to put 24 right here. I know it's going to be an open circle, and I'm shading to the right. Shading to the right. All right, guys, I want you to take a second, and I want you to work problems 13 and problems 14. When you're done, type done in the chat, and we'll go over the answers. And face-to-face, just look up at me. Try problems 13 and problems 14, and do your shading. Do your shading, do everything. Okay? Okay? So, here, guys, the big thing, you should have gotten x is greater than or equal to negative 12. I have no problem. I know you guys know how to solve this. I know most of you got negative 12. But the big thing is flipping your inequality sign. Same over here. I know you guys know how to work down and get 7, right? I need you to remember, if you're dividing or multiplying by a negative number, you flip your inequality sign. Are we all on the same page? Okay? All on the same page. Let's go to the next one, okay? And this is our last 2, and then we're done. We're done. Okay, we're done. So, our last 2, guys, oh no, we don't. How many we have? We have 4 more. 4 more. Sorry, guys. Sorry. We got 4 more, and how about this? Or 6 more? We're stopping we're doing these 2, and I'm saying then we're done. So what I'm going to have you guys do is 17 through 20 by yourself. Does that sound good? And then we check. Yeah, let's do it that way. All right, so here we go. For this one with the fractions, remember, guys, all the same, but we multiply by the what? When we're getting rid of fractions, we need to multiply by the reciprocal. Yeah. So we'll do the same. I'm going to get rid of this 5 first. So I'm going to subtract 5 on both sides. Okay. And I know when I do that, I'll end up with a 3 over 4x is greater than 6. All right. Now I need to get rid of this fraction that's with the x. So I'm going to multiply by the reciprocal of the fraction, 4 over 3. Okay, and I just use parentheses for multiplication, but over here I'll just write 4 over 3. Because that's easier to think about it that way. To the left, we know the deal. Everything cancels out. And I just have x. To the right, my 6 is over a 1, and I know I just multiply across. 6 times 4 is 24. And 1 times 3 is 3 in the denominator. Guys, what's 24 divided by 3? We know 24 divided by 3. It's just 8, yeah. So this is x is greater than 8. So on my number line, I'm going to go down to 8. I will put a open circle, and I'm going to shade all the values greater than 8. Okay? The next one, guys, on the next one, we're going to do the same thing, and I'm just going to put a line here. We'll do the same thing. Okay? We're going to get rid of this 1, so we're going to add 1 to both sides. Okay? And I want to use another color so this doesn't all look together. So if I add 1 to both sides, I end up with a negative 5 over 6x. Remember, the 1's cancel. It's going to be greater than or equal to 15. Here's the deal. Pay attention, guys. Remember, we get rid of the fraction by multiplying by the reciprocal. So I'm going to be multiplying top and bottom by 6 over negative 5. Okay? Oh, and I multiply over here by 6 over negative 5. But then I have to remember, I know everything cancels out to the left, and I can bring my x down, but I got to remember I multiplied by a negative, so I have to do what? If I multiply by a negative, I got to flip the inequality. Don't get caught up with the fact that you have a fraction and forget. I still got to flip the inequality. Okay, so I'm flipping the inequality sign. And I go down here. I put my 15 over a 1. And I'm going to multiply, guys. And Miss Bennett will get her calculator, right? So 15 times 6 is 90 over 1 times negative 5, that's negative 5. And then if I take 90 divided by 5, I got a 18. Okay, and it is, and Miss Bennett didn't bring that negative, so it's going to be negative 18, right? Because it is a negative 5. So it's negative 18. X is less than or equal to negative 18. So I'm going to write that here. And this time I do a closed circle. And I'm shading all the values less than. All right. Does anyone have any questions? I want you guys to take a second, and I want you to try the last 4 problems with the time that we have left, okay? So try the last 4. All right, guys, let's check our solutions. Take a second and check to see if you got the answers correct.